Every child deserves a fair chance. Every child needs a fair chance because they don't deserve it. They need, this is something that's needed.
I'm Lisa Jackson Williams, the Executive Director of Williams Youth Services and the Principal of YCCS Chatham Academy. I'm also a product of the Prairie Courts Public Housing Complex located in Chicago, Illinois. I've been asked several times why I chose to do what I do and why I stand on the foundation and the principles that I do. I'm fortunate enough to say that I came from similar lifestyles as those who I serve. Right now, we're standing in the area of the former Prairie Courts Public Housing Complex. The projects have been torn down, but this was my beginning. I was surrounded by family structures. I was surrounded by people who cared. But as I came up, and after I graduated from Drake, they wanted to get me out of the neighborhood for a minute so I can feel and see and experience other people, places, and things. I had plenty of friends, and as I moved up in the world, I felt I was leaving people behind who I needed to try to grab their hand and do more with. Though we didn't have playground equipment, we didn't have all of the nice little trinkets that youth have. We found a way to enjoy ourselves intertwining with each other. So the PCs, public housing, molded me to become what I am today. If I didn't come up in this environment, I don't think I would have had the same heartfelt mission to reach back for people who I had left behind.
My name is Brother Earl Sr. I'm the co-founder of Williams Youth Service. I am from the PCs, Prairie Court, but I hung in the Otterby Wells extension. This was the place to be for me. At first I was a good kid, just wanting to hustle, and I came down here and learned a whole new lifestyle. I remember when I first came down here, this was a real active, vibrant neighborhood. And gangs weren't really the issue, it was only a few of us in gangs. I was never inducted into the gang, but I didn't know how much influence I had until I went to prison. The whole business of Williams Youth Service really started on my part as a frustration. I was incarcerated.
The creation of Williams Youth Services did come about from a partnership with someone who was incarcerated. That person, once he was incarcerated, took a total turn in his life to give back to the community that he felt he had helped to destroy.
Yes, my name is Chew. I'm from Otterby Wells, as y'all can see. They're gone now, but this is where we from. This is my big brother. Always have been, always will be. And we come a long, long way. Yes, we done a lot of things together. Sold drugs, gambled, anything you can name, we done it. I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, After leaving him, he wasn't around at the time, but I wound up being framed for something I didn't do. I wound up getting 25 years for it. I talked to my big brother a couple of times on the phone, and he was telling me, just to be cool, you'll get up out of there soon, just sit tight, Upon that, I did what was asked of me, and I came up out of it.
I'm B-Head. I just live right across the street, right there. See the vacant lot? Me and Earl used to hang out over there. One thing I can recognize that I was scared at him at first, but then as you wonder what's going on in life, he put a bug in me. And he stayed with me for a while until I recognized what was going on. So after I recognized what was going on, then I stayed straight, but no, I did my thing too, you know. But he kept saying, you know what I'm saying, keep doing what you gotta do, you'll get out of it. Used to be scared of him, but I used to run. He was nuts too, you know what I'm saying? I was scared of him. I'm little now, and look at her, he was big. And he had that mean old look on his face like, go ahead and do it if you want to. Go ahead, you know what I'm saying? But he was positive. I mean, you know, every time he went through his little thing, he come back out stronger, and look what he doing now.
The reason I started hustling is I wasn't like everybody else that was destitute, trying to find a way. I worked. When I was 11 and 12, hustling copper and stuff like that. Then I had an ice cream truck over here. I used to have a paper route all these jobs you had to learn how to be polite to people. You had to learn how to be mannerable to people. You had to be business oriented to sell ice cream. You had to be business oriented to sell, you know what I'm saying, newspapers and go around and get your tips and pick up your collections and stuff like this here. So I always worked. Then I went on from McDonald's, then I went to Spiegel's, and I left Spiegel's, then I went to Follet Publishing. But I had a rude awakening at Follet Publishing because I had got into it with the boss and stuff like that, and they had me in the office, and he was telling me, I would fire you. I'm a proud black man. I'm like, all right, if you don't hold my unemployment, I'll quit. You ain't gotta fire me, I'll quit. One person, one individual, because he didn't like me, determine whether I was gonna be able to feed my wife and kid. I knew right then and there that I wasn't gonna work for nobody no more. And I left and went to the street. And that's where I met all these brothers at. When I went to the street, I built me an organization. We weren't formed because of no gang, it was formed because we all had the common elements, surviving out here. Down here was really, really where I learned character, perseverance. Where I learned that just because you poor, don't mean you don't exist. When it comes to raising a family, that's crucial. You have to be fearless knowing that somebody depends on you to come home to feed them. And when I was incarcerated, I really felt outdone because I knew this would establishment want me, and I let them put me in prison, and it just bothered me. When I was in this class and I was sitting next to this little white boy named Jim, I was telling them how when I was at home, I used to take my daughter to amusement parks, and how I used to take my nephews and nieces when I was feeling bad about doing business and the whole world seemed like it was after me. So he said, they got programs, the government pay you to do that. I'm like, what? I get paid for doing that? But I was doing all this out of my pocket. One day when I was hustling in the street, I always felt guilty about hustling because it seemed like I had more money than other people, so I was always helping the community pay their rent, helping them pay their bills and stuff like this.
At the time Williams Youth Services was created, I was actually a social worker. I was promoted in the agency, and to be promoted at that time, I needed to have a master's degree. So I went back to school, and the final project for the program was to create a company. The project itself was a holistic approach to addressing the youth in the neighborhood, as well as the adults who did not seem to get on board with the needs or with the requirements and mandates that society had put on us across the board. The goal was going to be to go after those young brothers and sisters who were actually gang involved, to show them that there were options to move forward and not be stuck in one area.
And when she was getting stuck in certain parts of her thesis, she had sent it to me to the penitentiary, and then I had some brothers, different brothers, and we sit at the table and they helped me cultivate this program.
After my partner was released, we made Williams Youth Services official. When Williams Youth Services came to be, we were living on 118th and State in the Roseland community. We were operating the organization from our home at that time, but he had the freedom to move around and become that networking source.
So I picked Williams Youth Service back up, and I was struggling. I had met this guy named Dr. Hendershire. When I first started working with him, I was just going around watching, because I like to observe first. I go around watching, be like a little roadie for the group while they doing their presentations. And when I did my first presentation, Dr. Hendershire took a liking to me and started putting me on all the time. He wanted me to go all over the United States, speak all over the United States about gangs and drugs and stuff like that.
There were no organizations who wanted to work with gang-affiliated youth. They saw them as being nemesis. So they were just waiting for them to do something bad enough for them to be incarcerated for the rest of their lives. And our objective was to prevent that from happening.
And see, what's so crazy about it is just so unfair to all these young brothers and sisters in the community. See, society ain't geared to help young people no more. And our kids, if you notice now, our kids is in different environments. They got bad service because they don't have an avenue as kids to learn business etiquette. Recess was taken out of our community, and recess is a main reason we learn how to socialize and communicate, because all the kids from all the communities was outside of recess. So if you got into a conflict, you had to settle that conflict right there. You had to work out, you had to learn social skills. They don't have that kind of social interaction in our communities no more in our school. So kids coming to school in packs. So now they fighting in school in packs because there's no social interaction inside the school.
I never felt that the population we were goaled to serve were nemesis because it was me. I grew up with them. I was surrounded by them. That was the population I loved. That was the population I knew. We were fortunate enough to get a place on, actual office space, I should say, on 75th and Dorchester. When we were on 75th and Dorchester, we ran multiple programs. The youth that were served were actually children and relatives of people who we knew, who needed help in one way or another, which was the beginning of the Little Professionals program, where they would learn office etiquette. It was the beginning of the entrepreneur program, where they could learn whatever skill you might have been doing on the street illegally could lead to a full-time job. And if you were good on the street, you could be just as good in an office situation. We did the job search program, which changed names quite a few times to help adults and parents find jobs. And the thing that I loved about it, which made it so unique, was that it was set up via Mr. Williams, where he would go to these prospective employers and he would let them know, I have this person who needs a job. Now, they may not have the best of a background, but at this point, they're willing to show you the strengths that they can bring to your company. And the only thing I ask,
I just want you to give them an interview. I'm going to train them. I'm going to get them prepared. I just want you to give them an interview. And they went for it.
we were at 75th Street for over a year, and we started having financial difficulty. We ended up going back to our home and operating the services. But it was only for a couple of months before we were actually able to relocate to Kennecott Park.
Kennecott Park was almost totally shut down. It was just like desolate little area where a few kids hung out and stuff like that. And I just sat in the I just sat at the gym door and watched what was going on. Cause like I said, I like to observe stuff. So I see the guys in the gym, they drinking, doing what they want to do, running around. And I told them, I said, dig this here, man. We finna start running some programs in here. And I ain't gonna be able to have all this happening in this gym, man. They was typical little young brothers in their little area. Man, you think you talking to, man? You better move around. So I just simply got on the phone, right? Called all the guys from the area. So they said, come to my office, right? And I sit the brothers down and I tell them what I was trying to do, what we gonna be doing at the park. And they're like, okay, we got you. You ain't gonna have to worry about having problems out to these little brothers no more. So the little guys come around and, man, how you know who, you know, man, that was so-and-so, that was who, how you know all that? And that's how we settled with Kindergarten Park. That's how we start working.
We were supposed to be like an after-school program, but we were opening up the doors at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And at that time, when Mr. Williams would open up the area, there would be kids who start coming in that early in the morning, not going to school. In some cases, parents did think that they were on their way to school. But when they got to Kindergarten Park, they would tell Mr. Williams the truth. I can't cross that gang territorial line. I don't have this. I don't want the kids laughing at me. It was always some type of viable excuse for them not to attend school.
With all that set up against our young brothers and sisters, they still survive. Do you know the homeless rate of our young brothers and sisters? And they still coming to school. Can you imagine coming to school knowing you can't wash up, knowing you can't bathe? Hold on, this getting kind of emotional. I got it. Knowing you can't bathe, knowing people gonna tease you, talk about you. And then they tell you don't want no education. How could you even imagine something like that? Most people can't imagine even coming to school without washing your behind, man. Knowing you're gonna be talked about in school, but you there.
The program was able to go to a fair funding rally in Springfield, Illinois. Mr. Williams actually met the CEO of the Chicago Board of Education, who was Paul Vallis at that time. And he was very bold and walked up to him and asked him directly, what can I do with these kids who are not going to school? Paul Vallis actually sent a task force to Kindergarten Park.
We all in the Kindergarten Park during the program, and the Board of Education came by unexpectedly. And when they came, we was doing everything I told Paul Vallis we was doing. So what happened is they wanted to talk to the kids by themselves. You know what I'm saying? People always think things staged and stuff. So they want to talk to the kids, so they asked us, the staff, to leave out, and they kicked it with our kids. When we came back, it was this little bitty guy, real energetic, Philip Jackson. He was like, ooh, this is a good program. Ooh, this is a good program. And then he asked me a question. He said, instead of you getting them back into the public school system, why don't you start your own school? I didn't think it was an option, but I didn't think it was impossible. Because I told her if I start my own school, I want to work with hardcore gang members. I went home and told Lisa, I was like, listen, this guy named Philip Jackson came and talking about we need to start our own school. She was like, sound like a good idea. I'm like, girl, we don't know nothing about running no school. So we met with Philip again, then he said, let me talk to some people. So we sat down, then we met Nancy Jackson. So we go to the Lord, she sit her down, we Me and Lisa come, we got our boards to do our presentation. You know, we all excited. She sat us down, she said, yeah, Philip taught me that y'all, for me to mentor y'all and y'all be in school. And we sitting there, we waiting for our turn. And she said, get up eating, meet me at 11:05. East Launch or West Launch at so-and-so time, and we'll start the paperwork. I'll see you there. Me and Lisa looked at each other like, what? This is some bull. You know what I'm saying? So we got our thing, then we went up there to say, let's go to the meeting. Now we got our stuff again. We're gonna do our presentation. Yeah, and then you need to do this and this and this and this, and then you need to get a suit. You got a nice suit? You got a nice suit? Then we need to go down here and talk to Philip. Then we sat down and talked with Philip Jackson, and now we ain't got our stuff, and he said, tell us about the organization. I'm sitting there looking like, I ain't telling them nothing now. I'm like, we ain't got no presentation materials, so we have to go off and tell them all the things we did, how we did it, what we did. That's what I said. Then they said that, well, you need to do this, 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 and this, and that's how the school was created.
After we went to meet with Philip Jackson, then the preparation of starting the school happened. That's what happened. And when we came up to Prologue, they gave us a room, a classroom, to start the school in. One room up north. It was a nice sized room.
It was huge.
It was a huge room.
We were directly across the street from the Aragon Theater, and you're looking at a hodgepodge of cultures similar to Hyde Park, but more so of different character and stance. And our students were amazed. Now, when we started on Lawrence Avenue with Prologue, our school was actually from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. We were actually an experiment. They could only start us off with 25 kids based on the funding that was available then. So if we were able to make it through that, then things would consistently grow. On Lawrence Avenue, believe it or not, our first year out of 25 students, we graduated 4. And as time went on, our numbers increased.
When we started expanding, it was time for us to find another location, a bigger location. So that's how we moved to 71st.
71st Street was a location that was owned by one of Prologue's board of directors. The building we were in on 71st Street was an apartment building that had studio apartments. So we had a storefront downstairs where we could have served lunch for the students and have our large group meetings. Then they'd go up to their classes, and each classroom had its own little teacher sitting area and their own individual washroom.
Matter of fact, we was right around the corner from Obama's office.
When he was a community advocate.
And that's how I met her, through Brandy McMaster. She was doing a speech program at New Horizon. And she was telling me about this young guy who wanted to be senator. When he first started running. And then she took me right around the corner to introduce me to him.
From that introduction, when Obama was a community advocate, he gave us our first set of computers on the 71st. He came and was a large group speaker on a Friday. And he was talking about bringing things into the community and making change so life could be better and da-da-da. And the kids said, that sounds fine and good, but right now we need some computers. Can you get us some computers? This came from the students to him. There was no biting of the tongue, not knowing that he was going to be our president in a few years. No, oh, they was cutting them up. Okay, we need some computers.
Right.
Less than a month, we had 15 computers there. There was the opportunity for us to move into a better school building, which is now Chatham. But to get to Chatham, we had to go through a lot of reviews and criticism.
Chatham, you don't just walk into Chatham.
You have to go through the
You
Chatham
have to-
Council.
You have to go through their council, and they very particulars about who they let in, what they let in. But what we found out was there was a school there before, because now I'm in the background just watching. There was a school there before, and the students was robbing the elderly people.
From the church.
So we guaranteed them that we wouldn't have that type of school, we wouldn't have that type of problems. I was at, during graduation, every graduation I used to go on the stage. Pro-law say we gotta change, they had to change their image sign to do some grants and stuff, and they asked Lisa to come tell me that I couldn't be at the graduation ceremony.
Be on the stage at
Yeah,
graduation.
I couldn't be on stage at the graduation ceremony because I carry a
Resentment.
negative image by me being an ex-offender and an ex-gangster. About people not seeing me or me not being in the school all day, it started turning or coming around often, maybe once or twice a year. I come in and do the orientation, do the presentation and the introduction to the kids into the school, but then I might come in the middle of the school year, then I might come in at the end of the school year, or I come in at Red Ribbon Week. The staff started not recognizing me as part of the school structure. Society has dictated as once you're a gang member, you're always a gang member. So if you're always a gang member, you're gonna always do gang stuff. And they even actually said my stuff, why do y'all follow him? You know, why do y'all listen to him? What has he got over y'all? You know what I'm saying? It's just that I got a program and I got a vision. I don't have visions from being in a street organization. The long as the community get it, it don't necessarily have to come through me. And that's always been my way. It's things places I ain't gonna be accepted, it's jobs that I can't get, it's licenses that I can't get, that's gonna cause conflict in the home. That's called collateral damage. And once you get a grip on that and understand that, you ain't gonna be traditional no more. You gotta find other means and other ways, or they gonna send you back to the penitentiary. You done found a way to change your income bracket. Now they done found a way to cut you out of that. Because of your criminal background, because you being an ex-offender. So I just follow the system. I'm doing a 7-year sentence for the rest of my life. My kids doing a 7-year sentence for the rest of their life. Because there was things happening in my life that I couldn't explain to them because I didn't realize what was happening to me. I'm now an ex-offender. So by me being an ex-offender, it's people that's rather, they want to help me, but they don't want to go through me. They want to be a part of my program, but they don't want to say it's mine. And that's just the way society is. If they say, y'all started the school, that's how I started off, but now it's like your wife still got the school. Your wife still got the jobs program. Your wife still doing the youth service. I just respond yes. Because really it ain't about me, it's what we can bring to the community. So it ain't that I learned how to do all these things, so I was amazingly taught to do. I had no other choice. Because people won't hire me. Because once you create something, like a school or a youth service or a job program, I don't care what they do, they can't take that away from me.
In July of 2012, I received a call out of nowhere from YCCS saying, Lisa, are you ready for your own school? I said yes. They said, okay, do you think you can pull it together in 6 weeks? I said yes. I gave Prologue my notice. I advertised on Craigslist for all the positions I needed. And I was fortunate enough when I walked out of that door, I was taking 75% of the current staff I had with me. And that was the beginning of Chatham Academy. It was a struggle, but when you do this kind of work, it's never based on money. It's based on your inner fulfillment. No one will ever be paid with their worth, working in social services and education at this point. But it's the accomplishment of that goal that gives you all the satisfaction that you could ever wish for.
Trouble is hard, it's easy getting into, but it's hell getting out of. I would recommend them doing the right thing as far as education, going to school, after school getting a job, you know, just keeping yourself busy, doing something productive, you know, because if you don't, you're gonna wind up find yourself in trouble that you ain't gonna be able to get up out of.
But you know, you got them bumps, you got them bruises, you got them scars. We all gonna run into that. We live for one day at a time. Don't worry about the next day. Worry about what's going on right now.
Well, Earl came a long way, you know, and it makes me proud to see him doing good. He had mentors in there, you know, and he came out a different person. You know, he wasn't drinking or doing drugs or anything when he came out, you know, and he had a different agenda. He wasn't going back to that life again.
See, if you get yourself into something, it ain't easy getting out, so you have to learn that. And that's the same concept I use with brothers and sisters at school today. There's three kinds of leaders. People that's born to be leaders, people that's taught to be a leader, and people that's forced to be leaders. The same system that had a grip on me then that turned me to the streets is the same system that got a grip on me now. So this whole thing is for these young brothers and sisters on the street. That's why I love them. I haven't found a child that I don't love. I haven't found a bad child. I like that analogy I seen on the website of that Brother Kadir used when he talked about a flower that's closed up. And everything is right there in that flower. You just gotta feed it the right nourishment. Give it the water and the sunlight and open up and blossom into a beautiful flower. That's a good analogy for our young people.
It just shows that your connections gives people the opportunity to label you. You've already been labeled because you go to an alternative school. They want to say you dumb, you a gangbanger, or you a dope dealer, and you never gonna be nothing. Please, it's already in you. Show them that you're not that. Show them that you are just as good as students in any other schools. But you've already been subjectively labeled. And that's the same thing that we went through as adults. So when we talk to them, it's not like, oh honey, no. It's from experience. And again, it goes back to why we started it. To reach for those who are in the same pot that we came from and let them know it's a way to come out of it. You're not stuck in that barrel. You're not stuck in that barrel.